The boy stood in the freezing rain outside the hotel entrance, clutching a wrinkled paper bag to his chest like it held everything he owned. Maybe it did. People rushed past him beneath umbrellas and glowing city lights, dressed in expensive coats and polished shoes, too busy to notice the skinny teenager trembling near the revolving doors. New York moved the way it always moved, fast, loud, indifferent. But the boy stayed there, waiting. His dark hoodie was soaked through. His sneakers had holes near the toes. He couldn't have been older than 17, though exhaustion made him look older. Every few seconds, he glanced across the street toward the massive building lit in gold. Blackwood International, one of the richest companies in America, a company owned by a man the entire country knew. Charles Blackwood, billionaire, investor, ruthless businessman, and currently dying. The boy swallowed hard and stepped toward the hotel entrance. "I need to see Mr. Blackwood," he told the doorman quietly. The man barely looked at him. "You in half the city, kid." "It's important. Move along." The boy hesitated, gripping the paper bag tighter. Then he said the words that made 3 nearby businessmen burst into laughter. "I'm his grandson." That got attention, not the kind he hoped for. The businessmen exchanged amused looks. One of them smirked. "Sure you are." Another pulled out his phone. "This I gotta hear." Within seconds, even the valet attendants were staring, because everyone knew the Blackwood family. Charles Blackwood had one son, William, who died years ago in a boating accident with his wife. No surviving children. It was one of the most publicized tragedies in the country. The billionaire had no heir, which meant this soaking wet teenager, standing outside a luxury hotel, was either delusional or desperate. The boy's cheeks flushed red. But he didn't leave. "I'm telling the truth." "Kid," the doorman sighed, "go home." "I don't have one." Something about the way he said it made the laughter fade just slightly. Not completely, but enough. Before anyone could respond, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. Security moved instantly, umbrellas opening as a tall, older man stepped out. Charles Blackwood himself. Even weakened by illness, he carried power in the way he walked. Silver hair, sharp jaw, expensive coat, the kind of presence that silenced crowds. The businessmen straightened immediately, but the teenager didn't move. Charles noticed him at once. Not because of the claim, because the boy looked freezing. For a moment, the billionaire studied him quietly while rain poured between them. Then Charles spoke. "Why is this child standing in the storm?" The doorman cleared his throat awkwardly. "Sir, he's causing confusion. Claims he's your grandson." A few people chuckled again, but Charles didn't laugh. The old man's eyes remained fixed on the boy's face. And something changed. It happened so quickly no one understood it at first. A flicker of recognition. Shock. Then something deeper. Pain. "What's your name?" Charles asked slowly. The boy swallowed. "Eli." The billionaire's face went pale. The paper bag slipped from Eli's hands, spilling old photographs across the wet sidewalk. One photo stopped Charles cold. A younger version of his son William stood beside a smiling woman, holding a toddler in his arms. The toddler had the same eyes as the boy standing before him now. The entire entrance fell silent. Charles bent down with trembling hands and picked up the photograph. "Where did you get this?" "My mom kept it," Eli whispered. "Before she died." The billionaire stared at the image like it might disappear. "My son," he said weakly. Eli nodded. "She never told him about me. She said your family hated her because she wasn't rich. After my mom got sick, she tried writing letters, but nobody answered." Charles looked shaken to his core. "I never received any letters. She died 6 months ago." The words landed like a punch. The city noise faded into the background. Eli lowered his eyes. "I didn't come for money." Nobody laughed anymore. His voice cracked. "I just wanted to meet someone who belonged to me." For the first time in years, Charles Blackwood looked completely broken. Not because of business, not because of illness, but because a child connected to his own blood had spent years alone while he knew nothing about it. The billionaire removed his coat and placed it over Eli's shoulders himself. "Come inside," he said softly. The next morning, every major news station in America exploded with headlines. "Mystery heir of Charles Blackwood found." Social media called Eli a scammer. Others called him lucky. Some accused him of manipulating a dying billionaire. But behind closed doors, the truth unfolded differently. DNA tests confirmed it within days. Eli was William Blackwood's son, the only living heir. Lawyers flooded the mansion. Reporters camped outside the gates. Distant relatives suddenly appeared, pretending to care about family. But through all the chaos, Eli remained strangely quiet. He wasn't interested in the marble hallways or luxury cars or private chefs. In fact, the first thing he asked for wasn't money. It was a job. The house staff noticed it immediately. Instead of acting entitled, Eli helped elderly workers carry boxes. He thanked janitors by name. He spent hours in the kitchen talking to cooks who hadn't been treated kindly in years. One afternoon, Charles found Eli outside in the garden repairing a broken bird feeder. "You know someone else used to do that?" the billionaire said. Eli looked up. "My father." Charles nodded slowly. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Eli asked the question, sitting heavily between them. "Were you close to him?" The old man's eyes filled with regret. "No," he admitted. "And it's the greatest mistake of my life." Charles had spent decades choosing business over family, meetings over birthdays, money over moments. By the time he tried fixing things with William, it was too late. Now somehow, life had given him one final chance through a grandson he never knew existed. Weeks passed. Then one night, Charles collapsed. The diagnosis was worse than anyone expected: advanced heart failure. The doctors were honest. He didn't have much time left. The family board panicked immediately. Investors worried about the company's future. Lawyers pushed Eli to prepare for inheritance battles worth billions. But Eli cared about only one thing: the old man in the hospital bed. Every single night, Eli sat beside Charles reading aloud from newspapers, because the billionaire's eyesight had weakened. Sometimes they talked until sunrise. About William. About mistakes. About forgiveness. One evening, Charles looked at the boy quietly and asked, "Why aren't you angry at me?" Eli thought for a long moment. "Because being angry won't bring anyone back." The billionaire broke down crying. Not quiet tears, real ones, the kind a lifetime of pride can't hold back anymore. And Eli simply held his hand. Months later, Charles Blackwood died peacefully with his grandson beside him. The nation mourned the billionaire. But what shocked people wasn't the size of the inheritance. It was the contents of the will. Yes, Eli inherited the company. Yes, he inherited billions. But attached to the will was a handwritten letter from Charles himself. It was read publicly during the memorial. "My grandson taught me something I failed to learn my entire life," the letter said. "A person's worth is not measured by wealth, status, or power. It is measured by how they treat people when they have nothing to gain." The letter continued. "I built skyscrapers but neglected my own family. Eli arrived at my door with nothing except kindness in his heart, and that kindness saved me before I died." People across the country shared the letter online, but Eli surprised everyone again. Instead of stepping fully into the billionaire lifestyle, he used much of the fortune to create housing programs for homeless teenagers and single mothers, because he remembered what it felt like to have nowhere to go. At the opening ceremony of the first shelter, a reporter asked him the question everyone wanted answered. "What did it feel like when people laughed at you outside that hotel?" Eli smiled softly. "They weren't laughing at me," he said. "They were laughing at the idea that someone poor could belong somewhere important." The reporter went quiet. Eli looked around at the families entering the new shelter behind him. "My mother used to tell me something," he continued. "She said the richest people in the world aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who leave kindness behind wherever they go." Then he glanced toward the sky for just a second. And she was right.